Okay, a very warm welcome to the January Cofiwch Dryweryn map update. Unsurprisingly, thanks to COVID and just generally wintry conditions, we haven't seen that much activity on the Cofiwch Dryweryn front over the last month. However, we have seen 4 new examples emerge over the course of the last 30 days or so, which takes our total up to 138 formally recorded examples. So numbers are still growing despite the current circumstances, which I think is an interesting thing in and of itself. So in this month's video, I'm just going to introduce you to the 4 new examples, and we'll do it fairly quickly just to give you a sense of where we're finding these. A couple of these were actually recorded just at that tipping point between December and January. So the first one I want to show you is in Monmouthshire, actually, in the hamlet of Llanfihangel, Mynydd. If we zoom out a little bit, you'll get a sense that we don't see that much activity. I mean, looking here, border areas in Wales are notoriously underrepresented in terms of Cofiwch Dryweryn. We looked at this in terms of border territories here. Again, very little in that part of the area. So this does stand out as quite an interesting example. It's a small one. Just a sort of a classic red-white, white lettering on a red background on a white trim on a fairly large stone in the landscape. This overlooks a roadway which sort of links up, I think, sort of Chepstow to Usk. It's that sort of route. So interesting to see that addition, and again, it's not a particularly well represented movement in southeast Wales. I mean, you can see here Pontrhydfendigaid, Cwmbran, going down to Newport. There are examples, but really this is one of the most easterly examples that we've seen emerge in a Welsh context, which again is interesting. The other examples are sort of in more familiar territories. We've seen another school example come up. If we try and, there we go, that's our second new example. Again, just zoom out to give you a sense of where this is. So overlooking Cardiff Bay, for this example, we'll show you the image and get a sense of what it looks like when it was being painted. I think this example, if it'll load, there we go. This example is in the gardens of this particular school. And again, just a classic example, quite nice chunky lettering here, classic white on red. But yeah, so another school example. I was sort of slightly hesitant about adding the school examples because they are on private land. It's questionable how visible they are to people outside of the school setting. But of course, in terms of visibility and influence within the school, and lots of children seeing it on a day-to-day basis when schools are open, it obviously has an impact. So I think that's quite interesting. Again, this part of Cardiff, not that many examples. We've seen this example up towards very close to the Millennium Stadium as once was, which has now gone. And this example in Grangetown, which interestingly, I have had a condition report on this one. You see here, I actually need to update this because I've seen a photograph of it from this year. So I'm taking it to say that that example still exists, which is interesting. I still need to update that. But yeah, generally speaking, I mean, for the scale of Cardiff, you don't have that many examples, so it's interesting to see one emerge at one of the local schools. Elsewhere, if we go over to, well, I say Newcastle Emlyn, near to Newcastle Emlyn. This one appeared relatively recently. This was on the 22nd of January that this one emerged. If we zoom out a little bit, you'll appreciate that in a more westerly context, we have quite a spread of Cofiwch Dryweryn murals. This example, if we bring it up, again, I was a little bit hesitant about whether to include this one because it is in a garden, but again, the position of prominence is important. I think one of the things that really stands out for me about Cofiwch Dryweryn examples is their visibility. And this one, quite high up, quite prominent, quite striking in terms of the red background on that sort of that light brown woody background. It does have that visibility. So I think this example warrants inclusion. Sometimes with the painted pebbles, I don't include them because they tend to be quite low down. They're very sort of private contributions to the movement, I think, and not that visible to, say, neighbours, for instance. This example is far more prominent, and so I think warrants inclusion. Again, nearby examples. The Hentland Junction, which keeps on getting repainted. I have actually seen relatively recent pictures of this as well, so I'm pretty sure that still exists in one form or another. The last example is what I call a Cofiwch. That's the wrong example. Where's this new one? No, it's not that. Bear with me, because this is a long place name. There we go. This is what I call the Cofiwch Dryweryn variant, which again I think is it's interesting when these crop up, when people are clearly inspired by the Cofiwch movement, but they give it their own take. In terms of positions within the landscape, I mean, this one's quite close to Strata, Florida, so there could be an interesting narrative about, you know, influencing the landscape in that respect. But it was a bit of a gap. I mean, you push up towards Aberystwyth and Mynydd. There's obviously quite a well catalogued spread of examples there. And of course, where we were in Newcastle, Emlyn, further towards the south and towards the coast, plenty of examples. This part of Wales, you know, heading up north from Tregaron, where the National Eisteddfod would and hopefully will be hosted, was again a bit of a gap. So interesting to see one emerge. The example, as we pull it up for a closer look, this one is just Cofiwch, but with the Gomni Nieto, will rise again narrative below. Interesting to see the Dryweryn part dropped in this instance, so this is a bit broader in sentiment, but obviously clearly inspired by the core movement as well. Again, pretty prominent on the side of the house, so I think a perfectly valid example to include. So that's what we've had in January. Again, you know, I sort of find it a little bit surprising to see any examples emerging, given where we are in the season. But it is, I think, perhaps a testament to the Cofiwch Dryweryn movement that it is still growing and expanding despite the conditions that we find ourselves in at this point in time. So I think that's interesting. As ever, if you've watched this video and you are aware of any Cofiwch Dryweryn examples, be they new examples or examples that have been damaged, deteriorated, or have disappeared, please do let me know. Give me a comment on the channel here. As ever, this mapping project only works with community contributions, so I really value it when they come in. All help appreciated. But otherwise, that's it for this month. So keep eyes open, and we'll see what happens during the course of February. See if it expands from. Let's have a look. What were we? 134 more. So yeah, 138 examples. We'll see if that increases as we go further into the year. Okay, on that, I'll say many thanks, and we'll catch you again at the end of February. Good night.